Okay, hello again. Long time no see. Today is one day before the anniversary release. Simulator controller is gets 2 years old tomorrow. On the 6th of December, it was the first publish on GitHub 2 years ago, and as last year, I also have this year a special feature as the anniversary gift, and today I want to demonstrate this feature. Yeah, it's an addition to the Setup Advisor. I think all of you know already the Setup Advisor, but before we start, as always, if there are questions, feel free to jump in. Let's start the Setup Advisor. There is already a dedicated video for this tool, so I won't dive too deep into the features of the Setup Advisor. If you want to learn about it, please take a look at this video before proceeding with the video here. The edition I want to talk about is called the Analyzer. The Analyzer is a tool which, as the name suggests, analyzes your driving and the capabilities and handling of your car while you are on a track. It does this by reading the telemetry data and doing some sophisticated calculation. It can detect several issues in the area of over and understeering. We will see this in a few minutes using Automobilista 2. But before we go there, we have to select the simulator here. It loads all the required stuff. Then we have to select a car. This time we want to use the Porsche. And then the item analyzer will get available. You can choose it. And this window appears. Let me first try to demonstrate the functionality before we go deeper into all this stuff here. To do this, I now start the Automobilista 2. And I switch middle screen. So I start the recording here and go to Automobilista 2 and go into drive. Something you can't see here in the Discord stream, but you can take a look later on in YouTube. We are now on the formation lab. The analyzer, as you can see, is already collecting events. These events here are quite heavy because the AI is currently steering the car. Now I have control over the car and start into the race. The analyzer collects data for a window of 2 laps. So if you want to get good results, drive until your tires are warm enough and then try to drive 2 perfect laps in sequence to get the best possible results of the handling issues. I'm driving now quite clean, no problem because it's on a straight. And after a few corners I will try to provoke some handling issues. For example, in the next corner I will heavily understeer the car. Yes, there are some handling issues recorded. There was some heavy understeering now. I turned the wheel much more than is necessary. And now we had some oversteering here, quite heavy. Okay, I will stop now here. And go back to the other screen. So, as you can see, the analyzer collected a couple of events here to work with. I stop the recording now, and another window appears. I can review the events. For example, I know that this extremely heavy oversteering was because I turned the wheel way too much, so I will exclude it from the problem list, and I also will exclude, just for example, this one here. And then I can also eliminate all events with little frequency, and only this one is left. I press apply, and the handling issues will taken over to the problem list of the setup advisor, and you see the recommended changes on your setup, which you might then you might now go to the setup area of your simulator and try to compensate for the handling issues. Okay, that's for demonstration. Now let's take a look again what the analyzer really is doing. If you have selected a simulator and a car, and the analyzer is available in the problem menu, this window appears, and there are a couple of things which are important to enter before you go to the track. First, and this is the most important thing, is the information about the steering log and the steering ratio. Steering log is this value is the number of degrees from full left to full right of your steering wheel. If you don't know the number, there are many ways to derive that. You can look at the internet. Most of the time you will find the steering log for the given car and simulator. But you can also activate the steering wheel on screen and turn your wheel completely to the left and then completely to the right, count the degrees, and enter it here. The steering ratio is the relationship between the turning of your steering wheel and the turning of your steering wheels, the front wheels. Normally a race car has something about 20 degrees from center to full steering, so 40 degrees overall. And you can see here 480 steering log divided by 12 is 20 degrees. In Assetto Corsa Competizione, for example, you can enter this value directly into the setup, and there you can also look it up. In other sims, for example, in Automobilista 2, you can find the turning range of your wheels, of your front wheels, and derive the other numbers from there. So there are several ways to do this. I have written a couple of information in the documentation about that. Most of the time it is no problem to get to these values. It is quite important that these values are correct. Otherwise, the slip angles cannot be computed correctly. The second line is not so much important, but if you have the exact values of the wheelbase of your car and also of the track width, which is the distance between the wheels, the front wheels of your car, it would be very good to enter them exactly. If you do not have the exact values, then the defaults are quite good for typical GT cars. They are all about in the range of 270 centimeters on the wheelbase, and they are also all have 1.5 meter of track width, plus minus a few centimeters. It doesn't matter so much if you are not exact in this area. The range of the slip angle will move a little bit either to the left or to the right. So 0 might not be 0, which does not matter at all, as you can, as we will see when we discuss this stuff here. This line here is allows you to set a dividing line between corners considered as low-speed corners and corners considered as high-speed corners. We all know that in the setup area, low-speed corners are more or less managed by mechanical grip, and high-speed corners are more or less managed by aerodynamic grip, and you need different approaches when working with your setup. And also the handling issues here of the setup advisor divide between the handling issues in slow corners and in fast corners. For example, you can I can show you this here. If you have understeer on corner entry, you will always have the options to choose between different values here. Okay, and now for the fun part. The sliders here allows you to set detection thresholds for a given event. And the meaning of these sliders is as follows. If you move them like this, you will have a large dynamic range of your car, from slip angles minus 180 degrees up to 180 degrees positive. No, sorry. It's times 10. So from minus 18 degrees up to 18 degrees positive. Positive values are for understeering. The car is steering not much enough. And negative values are for oversteering. The car is steering too much, or it's rotating too much, to be precise. So if you move them all the way to the left and here all the way to the right, you will most of the time detect no handling issues at all. If you put them like this, very narrow, this means you want to go for a quite stable car. The dynamic range is quite small, and you will get a lot of detected issues in the analyzer window. And I think you already see that the position of the sliders depends on your personal taste and your personal driving style. For example, if you want to have a more loose back end, an alien-like setup, you will move the sliders more to the left here in the understeer area, in the oversteer area, and you will eliminate understeering as much as possible. So you will have a very lively car which is rotating fast, but you must have a clean hand, on your steering wheel, because setups like that will be very nervous. On the other hand, if you don't like loose rears, make the dynamic range of the rear as small as possible and increase the area here for understeering. It's always required to set the heavy value more larger than the medium value, larger than the light value. Otherwise, we will get funny results. But I think this is quite understandable.
Can I ask a question about this?
Yes, yes, you can.
When you talk about the dynamic range of the understeer or oversteer, are you talking about the range between the light and the heavy, or between 0 and the value set?
0 and the value set.
Okay.
But as I told you before, 0 might not exactly be 0 depending on the values here. But there is an imaginary 0 line anywhere here. And you can decide with the sliders from which slip angle something is to be considered light oversteer, from which slip angle something is to be considered medium oversteer, and so on. You will get the list of handling issues here in the second screen of this window, and in the end, if you transfer the issues here to the problem list of Setup Advisor, you will get recommendations for your setup exactly for your target of car handling you have dialed here.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's the way to do it. We can start Assetto Corsa Competizione. Let me give me a second. Because Automobilista 2 unfortunately does not have the possibility to directly read and write setup files. So we need to do a second run using Assetto Corsa Competizione, while we're doing this. So we already selected simulator and car. We can also select the track, but this is not important for the analyzer. It is important to read and write setups later on. So now, Brands Hatch.
Going double file.
So I start the analyzer. I just drive a few corners so that we have some stuff to work with.
Green light. Go, go, go.
Okay, this should be enough. So now we have a couple of understeer events here. Let's say stop. and transfer them to the problem list. And now I want to load a setup. And apply the recommended changes to the setup. We can review it here. Then save it as, let's say, a modified setup for the space setup. Go back to the track and try if the changes would cure the handling issues.
Question?
Yes, yes.
Why did you set the apply percentage to 47 or about half?
I start typically with small changes. Normally I won't even apply every recommendation, but I understand quite a lot of setup handling, and setup management. So I would try to use my own intelligence to see what's going on and which of the recommendation would have the most or greatest impact on the handling issues. Normally, if you apply, fully apply and to all possible settings, you will get a setup which cures the problem for sure, but it will be so, let me say, sleepy, heavy understeery in this case. No. How do I have to say this?
It may be too extreme.
It will be very extreme. For example, if you cure an oversteery car with 100% apply with all recommendations, you will get a fully stable car, but it will be slow. So try to make small changes and drive again, record the issues again, and typically you will have to use 2 to 4 iterations until you have a setup which is something you like. It's the same work someone does, which is creating a setup manually. It's a lot of try and error. So this will be released tomorrow. Yeah, hopefully of any value for the community. Any questions? Seems not. So we will stop here and have fun with it.